Jacinta from I'll Meet You in the Lobby Lockdown. Today I've got my very special guest and very close friend, Bernadette Kelly, all the way from Copenhagen in Denmark. How are you, Bern?
Yeah, hi, Jack. Good to see you.
Good morning to you, and it's nearly 1 o'clock over here.
Well, yeah, a few hours here. So.
A few hours to go. Now, listen, can you give us a background on your story of how you came to live in Denmark?
How I ended up over here. So, actually, it started back in high school when we were at St. Francis in in Berwick. I applied to be an exchange student, and we could choose 3 countries. So I chose Japan, Brazil, and Denmark. And I got Denmark. So, and then I lived here for a year after we finished school, year 12. And then I went back to Australia, studied at university, had no idea what I wanted to study. So I studied high school teaching, got Bachelor of Arts and Diploma of Education, taught for a few years, and then I got a scholarship to Europe again for 2 months, and then fell in love with a Dane, and then it all went very quickly. And then, so 10 years between being an exchange student and took me 10 years to then, and a couple of visits to move back permanently. So, and that was back in 1990. So that was, 30 years ago was the first time I came here, and I've been here now for 20 years.
It's incredible. It's gone so fast too. Well, I was just going to ask you, at any stage while you were over in Denmark as an exchange student, did you ever think you'd ever return there to live?
Oh,
I don't think I've ever asked you
that. Return to visit? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did have a few visits. So when I was studying at uni, I did come over to Europe and visited my host family, and also had a few visits from Denmark over the years as well, back home at with my parents, but never to live. No, that just didn't consider it. So I actually say, I didn't choose Denmark. Denmark chose me in a way.
It's a bit
funny, but that's just how it is. Not planned at all.
Now you're at the moment you're a project manager and instructional designer in the IT industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you got into it?
Oh, so how I got into it. So as I said, I'm a school teacher by trade. So I worked for a couple of years in Australia in high school, moved to Denmark, didn't have a job, was looking. And at that time, 20 years ago, anyway, I applied for a job at a software company, had no idea what it did. It wasn't very tech savvy whatsoever, but I ended up in their training and certification team. And they have the tech experts. They have all the programmers and engineers and that, but they didn't have success at that point in being able to get all the expertise in the head on paper, so to speak, in air quotes, and how to communicate that in a simple, brain-friendly way where was easy to teach and was easy to learn. So when I think about it, like my first boss, I'll have to give him a plug, John Andrews. What a gamble, what a bet he took on putting someone like me, brand new to the country, like to the culture, no experience with tech whatsoever, but he could see that, just a different profile than most people in the company, but that's what they needed.
But also, just let people know too, you could speak fluent Danish by then.
No,
You couldn't?
I couldn't. No. So
You're pretty good though.
here.
You were pretty good because you lived there for a year.
So I lived there for a year, but this is 10 years on. In the meantime, studying another language at university. And so I was getting all confused. So when I was at university, between all my languages, and so I was like, right, you're going to just have to forget Danish. You're not going to use it again. Just put it in the back seat. When I came back 10 years to visit, I was sitting in the same living room with my host family, the same people, and they're speaking the same language, Danish, and I just could not understand a word. And I was sitting around thinking, how can this be? Like 10 years ago, I'm participating in these conversations. I couldn't understand anything. Having said that, it was relatively easy to get back into it. I still have my social card ID, which meant normally you have to wait 6 weeks or so to be able to get into the system. I could get in straight away, was able to get into a language school, and I'd say probably within 2 to 3 months I was back at the level I was after a year. So when I started the job, I wasn't fluent, but it didn't matter. I mean, the company language was in English and the writing and everything was in English. And so that was also part of it, that some of the experts, that English wasn't their native language. So they needed someone just to help, basically help communicate and spread the good word of this fantastic technology that they were developing and how we can get that out to the people and get it so people can use it.
So what do you appreciate about Copenhagen and Denmark?
So to live here, it's a very easy place for me to live. What I really like about this place is the high level of trust between people and the honesty that you get. And just with that, it's a level of safety in the city. So I live in an apartment in the city and with my 2 girls, teenage girls, and I really don't have any worries about their safety, which gives them and me a lot of freedom. So they can travel public transport pretty much any time of the day and evening without having to be with me. It's safe. I feel safe taking public transport by myself as a female. And even, you know, they would walk, and it's a little bit old-fashioned in the sense that kids still walk or ride their bikes to school. They don't always get a lift and walk home. I'm not home often when they get home. And they've been doing that since grade 3, being home alone while I'm working. And I can do that with a good conscience because all their friends are doing the same too because their mums are out working. And it's just a safe place to be. If they forgot their keys or something, the neighbour would help. It's
well, that was going to be my next question actually, because having an international family and raising children in a different language and culture, different to our own upbringing, home. How is it? How do you see it is different compared to how you were brought up here?
Yeah, so there's a lot of differences. What I find is interesting is that, I've lived here for 20 years, so I'm not an outsider, but I do speak the language, but I do have an accent. So I'm a little bit different, if you like. And I still feel it, like when, you know, it's mainly with, you know, schools and the teachers when they're communicating something or expectations of what they have with the students. And I'm like, sometimes I feel like an old crabby, like I'm the strict mum here because we probably had a stricter upbringing than than what my kids certainly have, and because they're given a high level of responsibility in the schools. Like even from grade 7, they're allowed out of the school yards and they can go home for lunch, or they can go across the street to McDonald's. We live in the city. There's and
so they've got more. They've got more freedom than what we would have had at high school until later on.
Way more freedom, and with that is a lot of responsibility. Because and the interesting thing is, they don't seem to, by and large, they don't seem to abuse that freedom. If you give them, give that to them, then they seem to respect that by and large.
Something else I've been wanting to ask you. You and I had a conversation the other day, and we talked about winter bathing, and I was talking to you about it, that I'd listened to a podcast, and you then mentioned that you do winter bathing. And can you share with the listeners the benefits of winter bathing?
So let me tell you what it is first, what we do. So there's a sauna. I don't do it without a sauna. Some hardcore swimmers would do that. But it's winter and it's Denmark, so it's colder than Australia. So, but there's a sauna. So I usually start in the water. So I get into the water. I'm in there for about maybe 15 to 30, 40 seconds, maybe up to a minute. And then up. I usually don't put my head under. Is there
a reason why you're only going for a minute? Is it just because you can't stand it so cold? Or is that enough? Like, is 1 minute sort of?
1 minute max. The first time I'm probably only in there 15 seconds. Then I'll go into the sauna and straight into the sauna, and maybe spend 5 to 15 minutes in the sauna, get really hot. The sauna's like 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. Then when it's so hot, you nearly can't stand it anymore, out in the water again. So it's the hot and the cold mix. And so if I've been in the sauna, I could probably stand being in the water for maybe 40 to, I'm working my way up.
So how often do you rotate that during that morning?
I would do it maybe 3 times in the water.
Okay.
And 3 times in the sauna, and that's it. So
and what are the
benefits?
Benefits, yeah.
So I think the health benefits, there's probably a lot of social media groups that can tell you what the health benefits are, but I think it's all largely undocumented what the health benefits actually are. So there's a lot of research that's taking place about it, whether, it helps benefit your immune system. Do you actually get fewer colds or flu, or just less sick in the winter period? And can it help with weight management? I don't know, all sorts of things, but I don't really take any notice of that. I don't do it for that. I do it, it makes me feel good. If I do it in the morning, I like to do it. That's the best time for me. If I do it in the morning, I just feel better that day. I feel more energetic. I feel just, if you've gone out for a walk in the morning, you just feel good after you've done it.
So how often would you do that a week?
So it's only winter time. Yep. So I want to try to do it 3-4 times a week. Right. If I could do it every day, I would. I just don't have the time to do it every single day. Sometimes I might take a break during the day and then do it, 11 or 12 during the day as well. So it's pretty cold here. So, and now it's not, but if it's a really cold day, the water can actually get to freezing, where there's ice and snow and everything. So, and I also like it. It's a challenge every single time.
Is there a temperature where they just go, no, you can't go in today, it's too dangerous? I haven't
experienced that.
You haven't, right.
No. I haven't seen that.
Now,
But it's just a challenge every single day, which is what I also like. So like I said, you know, I'll work my way up, and can I just take 5 seconds more? And then practice your breathing, basically. Instead of when you get in, like, and then start sort of panicking, just to practice your breathing and just slow down.
It'd be actually good for your mind, because you're in the water and that's all you're concentrating on. You know, it's mindfulness, I suppose. It's you're there and that's all you're concentrating on, I suppose. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
I could imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and then the relaxation bit in the sauna, which I love.
Yeah, you love.
So I can just sit there and, you know, think of nothing and just look out across the horizon for 10 minutes.
Beautiful. Now, we're both currently in lockdown, and as an expat living abroad, can you share with us your COVID-19 experience from a Danish perspective, culturally, economically and politically?
Yeah, sure. So we're halfway through lockdown. We don't know how well we're gonna get out on the other side, but things seem to be going pretty well here.
What stage is it still? Are you still in full lockdown, or I think I read the other day that schools have started going back? Is that right?
Yeah. So we've never had what I would consider full lockdown.
Right.
Actually,
okay.
We have been. I mean, a lot of my winter bathing, the sauna's closed, so that's it for this season. So bummer and everything, and every sporting, you know, cinema, shopping centres are all closed. We can be up to 10 people outside, and we can go outside. So it's not like France or Spain, Italy, where they have to have a reason and documentation on them why they're going out. No, so we're free to go outside, and I'm like, thank God for that, because I do live in an apartment. We don't have our own backyard here, and I'm like, if I can't go out.
Do you have a balcony?
I don't have a balcony at this place.
Right.
No.
Yeah, so you need to get out. Yeah.
Oh, if I can't get out for a walk, like with 2 kids, if all 3 of us are sitting, you know, I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, geez, people have managed worse over the years, but we get through it. But thank God we can get out and go for a walk, and they can meet their friends. They usually meet the same 2 or 3 friends. They meet outside, and supermarkets are well stocked up and everything, so it's all good. What I found was they probably went in pretty early, like when the Prime Minister, you know, did her first speech, like, all schools from tomorrow, this is closed, that's closed, blah blah blah. We were all sitting in the lounge room going,
it's
wow,
shock to the
this
system,
is
isn't
it? Serious, yeah. It was earlier than what I thought. So, I mean, because I work from home a lot, my work had already encouraged us to work from home if you can, and just avoid like public transport at peak hour. So if you have to come in, try to just come in at different times and everything. So it was I was doing that anyway. But
did you have the toilet paper fiasco like we did, where we haven't been able to get our hands on toilet?
So we saw videos from Australia. So Australia was our inspiration to, as soon as the Prime Minister, while she was speaking, I think she spoke for about half an hour, then the shops. And she actually, it was kind of interesting, she actually did say, don't hoard. And when you say don't, people do. So people were out in the supermarkets grabbing all that stuff while she was still speaking on a Wednesday evening. You know what, that lasted, this is my experience, I don't know, it could be different. Other people in Denmark could totally have different experiences. I think it lasted maybe 2 or 3 days where there weren't supplies, and then it came back. And by and large, we haven't had that really strict lockdown.
Yeah.
By and large, people do as what they're asked. First of all, they'll ask and recommend, and if that doesn't work, then they will tell. And it's sort of, I feel the Prime Minister's sort of like our mum, everyone's mum. It's like, right, I'm going to ask you kindly to do your social distancing and do this and stay at home and everything. And if you can do that and it all works, you know, then you can have your lollies on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we'll all be good. But if not, then it won't be 10 people, it'll be 2 people. And we don't want that, do we?
Yeah.
So and
it was probably a bit like that too over Easter with us. We were told by our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, nobody's to go away anywhere, and like, don't you even think about it. So it was sort of
yeah. And they didn't put restrictions in the regions here. So they didn't say you can't travel here and there, but just give it a second thought.
Yeah.
So it's that I feel there's also this moral social responsibility. It's sort of like, you know, the new passive smoking, right? If you were smoking in the old days, it'd be, you know, people would look down. So if you're not doing the right thing, you soon will, because you're getting the condemnation from the people, from the others in the supermarket. So you might be a comment or just a look, right? Which can be enough. Schools, so they sent the kindergartens, creches and the younger school levels back last week. If the schools are ready, they have to do a lot of spacing and everything. So, and it's not normal schooling, but encouraged to be out as much as possible and everything. So they went back, and then just today, service industry like hairdressers and physios, chiropractors and things like that.
Nails?
Yeah,
We're
nails.
in trouble. Our nails are going to look ridiculous in the next
other one that they've said is tattoo parlours, and I'm like, yes, extremely important. That, but nails. But and they need to keep their distance. So they're also, you know, encouraging nail salons, if you can, to put up a plastic visor.
Shield.
So
that's a good idea.
So slowly see how we go. Up until now, it's been we haven't had the worst number of fatalities compared to some other.
Hopefully, yeah.
Generally, people do as
actually, I've got the latest figures here for Denmark. There's been 7,384 cases confirmed over this time, but you've had 4,141 recovered, and you've had 355 deaths in that time, say compared to Australia, which has been 70 deaths to date today.
Yeah, so way more than Australia, because the population of Denmark is just over 5 million. So you'd equate that to probably the population size of Victoria.
Yes,
So it is more than, quite a lot more. So here I am saying, our numbers are pretty good. It's all relative.
Oh, they are, though. They are compared to the rest of the world, though. And now, how have you discovered anything about yourself in lockdown that you weren't aware of before now?
Yeah, interesting question. So, look, I have to start off by saying I'm probably less impacted than most of your listeners, right? So I'm not in travel industry. I'm in IT industry. If anything, we've got more work to do with cloud computing. We're helping people being able to work from home. In my department, you know, we're doing classroom training and online, and we just flip a switch and can go 100% virtual in our instructor-led formats. And
that's
brilliant. There's things to figure out. So, and my kids are old enough for homeschooling and that. I'm not the stressed out parent where I have to figure out, you know, and help them and sit with them and do their homework. They're pretty much self-driving there. So I'm very blessed. that I'm not impacted as much. I mean, I don't have a business like you in the travel industry to really have to really stop and think, what now, right? So I haven't been pushed to the limits of what I think a lot of what you have and what a lot of your listeners have. So, I mean, but what I've learned, I think, is I actually quite like this. It's not too bad. I quite enjoy having teenagers at home with me. They're always out with their friends or everything. Nice. Now we've got more time together, and I'm enjoying that. I really am.
So have you been doing different things with them that you wouldn't normally do because you've got them, you know, a lot more? Like, have you been playing different games, board games or something like that? Have you been doing stuff like that?
Yeah, we've been a bit of that, and just watching TV together and just going for a walk together, or just being together, not necessarily doing anything. It's just it's been a pleasure for me. And when they're not here, I actually enjoy being by myself. Maybe I'm getting old. I think it's something to do with getting old. There's actually no social commitments.
No,
right?
That's nice sometimes, isn't it?
I actually have enjoyed it, like birthday parties. Sorry, can't do it.
No excuses. You don't have to make up an excuse.
And I just find I have more time in that, like no travel time to work. Normally, like saving an hour a day traveling, that I can go out and do a walk or whatever. The other thing is, I mean, this is not permanent, right? I know it's going to go on for a while, and there will be some, it'll be gradual opening up, but it will open up at some point. So I'm just trying to think, well, how can I make the most of it? And you know what? I think one of your other podcasts, I think it was Meg, I listened to her the other day, you know.
Meg Coffee.
We're on this hamster wheel, just busy, stress. This is an opportunity. Let's take it as an opportunity to step back, take a breath, and just take things slower. And I've enjoyed just going a bit slow for a while. Do us all a bit of good, I think.
I think so. I agree. With your work, you talk about brain-friendly online courses. What does that mean? Like, have you had time to sort of work on different things with work, like things that you would normally?
Yeah, we've been forced to. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So with brain-friendly, really, I mean, that's what we talk about there is just how to make the learning stickier, like how to make it stick. So first of all, how someone can learn something in the first place, and then from just learning it to being able to remembering that, and then from that being able to do something new. And it's what I'm really passionate about is moving it from when you're able to know how to do something to being able to do something. So the biggest or the easiest analogy I use is, you know, learning to drive a car, right? There's this one thing, you know, passing the theory test, and you know how to drive a car. A young person, they know how to do it. They've seen their mum and dad drive for all their life. How hard can it be? But that to go from knowing how to do it and knowing the rules and just the theory of it, you know, you have to change gears and this and that, to actually being able to do it is practical. A huge gap. And how we can move people from that knowing about something to being able to do something. And then just like driving a car, at the first times you do it, you have to really consciously focus and concentrate every single time until at some point it becomes routine or habit that someone like you or me can jump in a car, get to your destination and not even really remember how you got there. Like your car just sort of got you there on autopilot. So
we can have some days like that.
Yeah. But if you're learning how to drive, you're really thinking how to do it. And it's the same with any skill, whether that's, I'm in IT, whether that's learning new software, technology, or more practical stuff. So, I mean, everyone's had a great teacher or taken a great course. What I am passionate about and know is if it's a great course or great teacher, it's not an accident. It's because of great design under the hood. And you could talk about the great course and why you loved it as a student. Well, I can also talk about what are the theories and methodologies behind that and why they designed it that way to make it a great course, which is not just like a lot of online. My pet hate is when people throw up a webinar or something, call it a course, but it's not. It's a presentation. Let's call it a presentation. Let's call it a lecture or something, but it's not training. It's not a course. And maybe on the borderline of what I would call edutainment, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So some of the key I mean, maybe I'm talking too much about this because I love it, but you have to have application, you have to practice, and you have to get feedback on how you did when you're practicing, and you have to have even better, have some aspect of reflection. How did I feel when I was learning that? What went well? What didn't go well? Has to be that self-reflection and repeat it over time. That's a great way to learn a new skill. So yeah, I love that. And I love the challenge of working with a subject matter expert in whatever subject they're in. And
so you work with all different, you work in all different fields from that point of delivering something like that?
So right now, most of it, I'm in IT, so most of it is technology.
Right.
But what we're seeing in technology is actually, it's not just to IT departments we're actually teaching, it's now the business departments. And our tech specialists, instead of, if you had to implement a new technology, new software, you'd be talking with the IT department. These days, they're talking with the business leaders. They might be talking with the head of marketing or the head of sales or and it's not just implementing some new version of some software, it's like helping solve problems, helping solve business problems. So the connection between the software and the technology and the business problem is closer. So our technologists have to talk more business and our business people have to be more tech savvy. So I'm in the middle there and that bridge between, and how do you connect them and make it relevant for whoever they're trying to teach. So a lot of it is software and software related, but and that's what I've done probably most 20 years, but what I'm getting more and more into, and I'm lucky I'm in a big company that's big enough that, you can try to move around, but I have to push myself in that way. That doesn't just happen. I have to say, I want to get involved in this and get myself involved in some of the soft skills training. There's a lot of soft skills like coaching or training for leaders and all of that. And especially the soft skills, how do we create a course online where you're helping people, I don't know, it could be negotiation skills.
Okay.
How can they practice that online in an online environment, and how can they get that feedback that I'm talking about? and
True.
that self-reflection and everything. So I find that it's enormously challenging and just great people to work with. You know, when you've got an expert who's totally passionate in their subject field, and then I'm like, well, how can we get your passion and break that up into bits that are palatable and understandable and learnable for others who aren't experts yet.
Okay. Now, you're also really passionate about women in tech and exploring how motherhood can be career enhancing rather than a career killer. Can you share with us your views on that?
Yeah. So let's break it up. So women in tech, that's I guess for me it's simple. It's just good business. It's good for the business. The more, and it's I was looking up, I work at Microsoft and great company and everything, but I was looking at their data yesterday. There's just over 27% of the company are female, and in tech roles, so engineering or something like that, that's down to just over 21%.
Has that grown though? Has that grown over, say, the 20? That's grown, yeah.
Since 2016, I think it was down to 17%.
Okay.
So it's growing each year, but I mean, they are putting an enormous amount of effort to try to get more girls interested in engineering and maths. And I don't know, we call it the STEM subjects, science and technology, engineering and mathematics. So it's like, I just put enormous resources, but it's just good business. Like, we're creating products, technology for a global audience, and we're creating that for everyone. And if we're creating that for everyone, like 50% of the world is women or more, 51. So if we want and expect our, women to be able to not just use our technology, but actually become a fan of our products and technology, that they love it so much that they have to tell others how cool their experience was. Then we want women to be part of designing that technology. And it's not just women, it's global audience. We want diverse people from everywhere, and just diversity for everything. Like, it could be just personality diversity, or we want extroverts and introverts. We want all different types to be part of that design and development and marketing and sales, the whole end-to-end range. We want that diversity, including women. So women have just been underrepresented. It's increasing, but it's just very, very slow.
I was going to ask you, why has the uptake been so slow, do you think?
So I think maybe historically, don't get me started here. There's a lot of reasons, but I think, you could say one thing is historically is, if you think of what a computer software engineer, you might have in your head someone who's a bit geeky or works by themselves. There's not that much collaboration or interaction with people, and that's just not how it is. There's a lot of collaboration.
So do you think it's sort of been in the past, women have looked at it as maybe being an introvert, like it's been for introverts as such? And,
that's too, for when we're talking women. I think the problem is girls aren't taking engineering degrees. So even in Denmark, if you look at, like, girls are educated and probably beating guys in how many are taking a university degree, but what are they studying? They're actually not studying. They're still underrepresented in university degrees in engineering or maths, right? And so when Microsoft looks at universities, there's not that many girls to choose from. And then why are they not choosing those university degrees? And goes back to high school. And I think,
that's what I was going to say. Does it stem back to high school that they haven't been really exposed to that sort of career?
Exposed, but just the role models or the lack of role models that you have. It's with any underrepresented group. You need the role models. It's that chicken and the egg sort of thing. But you also need, in years 7, 8, 9, young girls when they're becoming teenagers, and yes, it's actually cool to be good at maths, right? And to be a rock star at maths. It's actually cool. It's not a nerdy thing, and it's not just acceptable, but really great. And other teachers encouraging that. And what if there's a girl who does like it, and what will her friends think and all of that? And so it's just so early in the process on how we socially condition girls and boys, right? And then there's the whole thing that once they do come to a company like ours, do they feel they belong? So we've gone from, diversity and inclusion to, the inclusion focus, making sure they feel like they belong when you're there. You've finally got some girls here. Let's, what can we do to make them feel they belong, they're wanted, and that they'll stay? So
as you say, they need almost like an influencer of somebody like yourself, even that can influence. But you know what I mean? That can influence them in that field. Yeah.
And so when we talk about mothers as well, I think that just started. I was at some conference and I was at a diversity lunch, and there's a panel, and then some young girls were asking questions about, I'm working really hard and my career trajectory is going really well, but I'm worried if I start having kids, then it won't be that good at the workplace because I'm going to have to leave at like 3 o'clock to pick up kids. And the panel was like, I know that's why you need a flexible workplace or a manager who understands and all of this. And I'm like, no, totally wrong. Time out. The conversation's wrong here. Let's talk about all the skills and the added value that you learn becoming a mother and being on maternity leave during that time. And I actually deliberately don't say time off because it's not off.
No, it's
on.
not. It's far from it.
Right? You're on 24/7. So the time away from your paid job is not time off where you're just having coffee with mothers groups. The skills that you learn that you can bring back to the workplace. I can just see for myself, like, I had to leave at 3 o'clock to pick up kids, but my God, what I managed to get done in that day, because I became super great at prioritizing, knowing what was the right trade-outs, and accepting, like, instead of something has to be perfect, good enough. And where's that balance of, this is good enough, and all sorts of other skills. That's just a few things that where you can say, and I'm talking motherhood, but another great thing would be, especially for listeners here, someone who takes a year off work to travel, right? And then people talk about, what if I've got a gap in my CV? And I'm like, great.
That's a good
thing.
What
did you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just
diverse.
story, you know, just flip it instead of, oh, I've got kids, what will this employer say? Yeah, I've got kids. This is what I've learned. This is what they, you know, being a mother can help me, the skills, why it actually makes me a better employee. Or I've got this gap. I travelled for a year. What did I get out of that? Like, and how can a future employer or team or whatever benefit from all these wonderful experiences and skills that you learn, whatever that is?
With your work, you travel a lot. Can you share any funny work travel stories with us?
Yes. So just starting out on my first team, probably one of my first visits, I'm in Paris with a colleague, and we did our work, and then we get to the airport the next day. So we decided to stay the evening so we could enjoy Paris in the evening, on the agreement that we'd take an early flight the next day and just turn up to the office, you know, 10 a.m. or something. So we're early at the airport. We're sitting at the gate waiting for our flight, and somehow we missed our flight. So we're sitting there. We were talking so much with each other. Can you imagine you and I just sitting there talking that our flight came, it boarded, people got on and took off. They even made announcements for Bernadette Kelly, your flight, go straight to the gate. They make so many announcements.
And you didn't hear it?
At all. We were sitting right there. Oh my goodness,
yeah.
We missed it. So I have to explain, I have to ring my boss. I missed my flight, need to book a new one, could only get on business class the next flight. So there's some extra cost there for the, you know, I'm really sorry. But
you sure you didn't set that up?
The person I was with was his wife, actually. And so it was just very awkward because he's just like rolling his eyes going, yeah, it doesn't surprise me about her. That she was talking too much. And yeah, so it was embarrassing. You know, I was very young and just, this is just awkward. So
that's funny. Now, what's the best destination you've ever visited?
As a destination in itself, I would probably put Iceland up there at the top of my list, partly because it was unexpected. I hadn't planned to go there. I planned to stop in Reykjavik on the way to the US, and we got delayed and had to stay there for 24 hours. And then we were just put in some really crappy hotel and everything, and the weather was just horrible, and I just thought, I can't sit in this hotel, we're going to have to get out. And so found out that the Blue Lagoon hot thermal springs was like 15-minute drive from the hotel, and I'm like, let's just go there and make the most of it. And it's just magnificent, partly because it was unexpected, didn't plan it. So, you know, those unplanned experiences are often the best.
Yeah.
But also I just remember driving from the hotel over there. The landscape was just so different. It's all volcanic ash. I just never felt so far from home, so far from Australia. Just that feeling. It was just amazing. So I've only been out of the airport that once for 24 hours, and that's absolutely a place I have to go to and have to bring my kids and experience that.
I've seen some amazing photos of Iceland. It looks amazing. So I can imagine what it would, I couldn't even imagine yet. I haven't been there, but I could imagine by the photos, seeing them, it looks like an amazing place.
Yeah, and just the feelings you get when you visit these places, right? Yeah.
And as you say, that feeling of being so far away from a place, like from your home country, you know.
Yeah.
It's like at the other end.
And I felt so remote as well. So maybe that's how international people feel when they visit Central Australia, because it is so different. Just the colours, and the landscape, and the vastness, and knowing you're so far. Like someone from Denmark, right? Because you're just so close to the coast. It's a country of islands, right? You're always close to the sea and the coast. But in Central Australia, hours and hours from the coastline. I'm sure a lot of international people must have that feeling when they visit Central Australia.
Central Australia comes up a lot when I do my podcast and speak to a lot of our guests. They bring Central Australia up all the time. One of my favourite places too.
Yeah.
What's your most emotional travel experience you've ever had? Like when you just not expected it and you didn't expect to become emotional. Can you share that with us? Or one of the experiences with us?
Yeah. I could probably bring in two. So one was up in far north Queensland, visiting the Daintree Rainforest for the first time. So I'd been to Cairns quite a few times in all sorts of seasons, even rainy season, right? And so we thought we'd go up to the Daintree. So, yeah, there's no joke that it's called a rainforest in rainy season. So we took this bus up, and you have to cross. Have you been there?
Yes, I have, yeah.
And you have to cross the Daintree River with this barge, right? This would be probably 18 years ago, right? So we're in a little tourist bus, and it just stops just before the barge, and we all have to get out. And well, why are we getting out? Oh, we have to wait. It's rained too much. The Daintree River's flooded. We can't cross. Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, when can we cross? And the guy just looks at us. When it stops raining.
Oh.
And we're like, okay. So you're just sitting there.
How long's a piece of string?
And, you know, you just really get that sense of, it wasn't emotional in that sense, but where you really feel at the mercy of the climate in this case. Just circumstances outside your control. And no matter how sophisticated we are as a society in Australia or anything, you're just still at the mercy of this when it stops raining. So I think we had to sit and wait for maybe 4 hours before we got there, before we were able to, the water went down and we could cross. But then we're on the other side, right? And then we had to come down to Melbourne back for Christmas, and we're like, what if we can't get back? So just we had to change our plans just to make sure that we could make our flight from Cairns to Melbourne. And it really, you know, you feel really, what do you call it? Small.
Vulnerable too.
Vulnerable.
Because,
yeah. And I just felt really amazed at that point in Australia that we were still subject to climate. It was just a good reminder, and it's kind of similar to now.
Now, exactly right. Who would have ever thought?
How sophisticated our societies are, and we're all still vulnerable. Doesn't matter how much money you have or what status you have or what job you have or who you are. It's brought us all to our knees. You're not immune to this, no matter who you are, right? How famous you are or how poor you are or whatever.
Well, Bern, it's been great chatting with you today, and thanks for sharing, all your stories and all about Denmark. And we've covered a lot of different subjects today, so thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me. And can I just say, I've learned a little bit of Danish, and I'm going to say this to you. So you're probably going to laugh. Yeah. Hey en god day. Yeah. Did I say it right? Og lige måde. Yeah. Well, I understood you. There you go. Your mate Jack can speak Danish. There you go.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you.